welcome you and thank you for your time. I was thinking about this presentation and I was really looking forward to this presentation, and it reminded me of my favorite city in the world. So my favorite city for me is New York City. And I always remember the very first time I went to New York City. And it was 2 months after 9/11. I was going to Johannesburg, South Africa. So I was flying from San Francisco to New York, and then New York to Johannesburg. And I had a 17-hour layover. And I'd never been to New York City before. And there were a lot of things that I wanted to see. I wanted to see Central Park. I wanted to see Times Square. I wanted to see Madison Square Garden. I wanted to see Wall Street. I wanted to see the Statue of Liberty. And then I wanted to close it out by seeing the World Trade Center, which was devastated by terrorist attacks. So when I landed in New York City in JFK, I knew they had a subway system. Didn't know necessarily how to work it, but I felt I was resilient and I could figure it out. And I remember when I first got into the subway system, it was a lot. If you've never been to New York City, you may not be able to relate, but if you've been to New York City, you will understand what I'm talking about. So in New York City, when you go down into the subway, there are tons of people. There are signs everywhere. It can be, very overwhelming to a person for the very first time when they go to New York City. Like, am I going uptown? Am I going to the Bronx? Am I going to Flatbush? What are all these numbers and letters? So for me, as a first time, this case as a tourist, in what is my favorite city, a city I've always wanted to go to, I was very much overwhelmed. Now, needless to say, I was able to, over a 17-hour period during my layover, visit all the sites that I wanted to. But when I got back on the plane, I thought about it. And I said to myself, what if there was a better way? What if when I first came to New York City and I got into the subway, there was a person to greet me? And this person asked me where I wanted to go. I told him where I wanted to go, all the different places. This person escorted me through the turnstile to the train that I needed to get me to where I needed to go. I thought that would be great customer service. Maybe it's not sustainable, but that would, really put a good mark on New York City. But then I thought, what if there's even a better way to do that, to see all that New York City has to offer, a better way to get around the city? What if I got off the plane? As soon as I stepped off the plane, I stepped into a vessel. And this vessel took me directly to where I wanted to go. No traffic, no mess, no confusion, free. And it gets me there very fast. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It sounds kind of futuristic, stepping off your plane or walking out of your hotel room in Times Square and stepping into a vessel and having it take you exactly to where you want to go. Well, I'm here to tell you that I've seen the future. I've experienced the future. And you know what? It feels good. So when you think about Oracle, when you think about what you have to do in terms of selling our solutions, our value proposition, our offerings, our services, it could be a daunting task. When you take a look at the subway, as I described, when you first come to Oracle and you try to sell our solutions, it could be a daunting task. There are a lot of products, there are a lot of features, there's a lot of integration, there's database, there's all these different things, and it could be very overwhelming. There are groups within Oracle that have been stood up to try and make it easier. The customer service agent that's sitting at the turnstile waiting for me in New York City. There's people within Oracle that take a view on your business, in this case, the UGBU, and tells you about our solution and how to stitch it all together. And what I'm telling you is that there is a better way. I believe that telling the whole Oracle story is the only way to sell. It's the only way to convey value. And if you're not doing that, you're leaving opportunity on the table. So today, I have various topics that I've been asked to hit with you guys, and I want to make sure that it's a value add to you. So at the end, we're going to have an open Q&A. I've been asked, can you tackle things like specialized topics? What happens when we have a very narrowly focused topic and we're trying to sell value and trying to make it consumable for our customers and prospects? I'm going to talk about why this way of selling, in terms of value selling, the why Oracle story, why it works. I'm going to give you several examples, and I'll do some in real time so you can see it in character. And then I want to also share with you what I classify as the strategic mindset. But what we have to do, I think, is start at the beginning and have an outside look in. And what I'd like to do is I want to have a quick survey. All right. And I want you to answer this question honestly, because it's anonymous. Okay. Like they say, don't lie to your doctor. In this case, don't lie on this one. So give yourself a grade today, how you feel you are in telling the why Oracle story, the end-to-end story. Give yourself an honest grade, and you can scroll and take a look and pick one. Take your time. I'm going to give myself a grade. And I think it's real important to have an honest assessment as to where we are, because we're amongst family here. We're not in a competitive setting. We're not evaluating you in this situation. We're trying to make sure that we're driving value. So if you can go ahead and stop the survey, hopefully you got it, and let's go ahead and throw up the results. And what I expect to see is a bell curve, right? And so I'm looking at this, right here. So it's real interesting in terms of what we have. We have a traditional, bell curve, and the vast majority of the people believe they're at around a C+, B-. And so thank you for that. But also let's take a look at it from another perspective. We are internal. We are amongst family. This is a safe zone. We can be honest with ourselves. But here's the truth. If you didn't select an A or an A-, I would say, then you're failing. Because out there in the real world, and you know this from working in this space and from dealing with customers, it's a pass-fail. There's no C+, B-. It's either you get the business or you don't get the business. And I think we have to set ourselves up for success. We have to have a particular attitude, a particular mindset, and want to invest in ourselves so that we can do better, so we can tell that story. So today here in this session, my goal is to give you some ideas, some tips and tricks, some things that you can do starting tomorrow in your journey of being able to tell that why Oracle story, as I call it. Okay? But I think we have to start back in around 2006. And there was a very interesting time for Oracle. So around 2005, 2006, 2007, Oracle decided to create what we call the global business units. And one of the early ones created was called TUGBU, Tax Utility Global Business Unit. And we have some employees I see here that were around when that happened. And basically, it was Oracle's idea of let's go to market by vertical. Now, just so you know, my entire career, I went to market by vertical. And so I think in terms of verticals. I believe vertical expertise and vertical depth is key. It's what separates us, I believe, from the competition. But on the other side of it, I think potentially it was one of the worst business strategies that we did as Oracle. Follow me on this for a little bit. So when I used to partner with Oracle before they did this GBU thing. And then I became a competitor of Oracle when they did the GBU thing. And I saw some very distinct things. I was at a pre-bid, and this was for Modesto Irrigation District. It was a pre-bid conference. And there were 2 Oracle people in the room. There was an SAP person in the room. There was some SCT Banner employees or whatever the company was called at the time because they were bought and sold several times. There were some other providers that were out there. And I always remember the 2 Oracle people. One of them was named Mary Perry, who was the tech rep, a very good tech rep. And in tow was the ERP rep. Now, this RFP was for ERP, CIS, a billing system, and work and asset management. That's what Modesto Irrigation District wanted. Now, Modesto Irrigation District is a utility here in California, not far from where I live. And I remember during the Q&A period, the first thing that the Oracle person said, can we just respond to a certain portion of the RFP, the financials and supply chain piece? Is that going to downgrade us or hurt us? And I sat there in disbelief. Here is Oracle that has so much to offer, yet we had reps that were sitting there driven by their comp plan, making poor business decisions on behalf of Oracle. The opportunity was there for Oracle to take the whole kit and caboodle, but that person was not compensated that way. And the tech rep got compensated because eBusiness Suite was an on-prem product. And if you sell eBusiness Suite, you sell tech. So they were good partners, but they didn't bring everyone else to the table. Another thing happened shortly after that time frame that I think was key that shaped what we do. We had the Great Recession here in the US, and it reverberated through all the different industries as well. It wasn't just housing. It came over to utilities. We saw interesting things happen. From a business perspective, one of the things that we saw from utility executives is that they were talking about growth in 2011, 2012, 2013, 14. They were talking about growth, but utilities weren't growing. They had anemic numbers, a point and a half year over year. There wasn't real growth. The growth they were talking about was taking cost out of the business. And so Oracle had an opportunity to tell the great Oracle story or the Oracle value story or the why Oracle. I've heard many people call it different things. And the interesting thing about that is if a person does a presentation for me at Oracle, I can tell you what their comp plan looks like. If you show me a person's comp plan, I can tell you what they're going to say. And here's my challenge to you is we need to have a strategic mindset. That's the first thing that has to happen in order for you to be able to tell the why Oracle story. I'm not sure where you live, and I know we have folks here from EMEA as well, but let me tell you what my paycheck looks like. In the upper left-hand corner, it says Oracle. It doesn't say utilities. It doesn't say global business unit. It says Oracle. And you have to have a strategic mindset. You can have all the knowledge about the product and all the features and functions in tow. You can know it inside out. That's great. But it doesn't drive buying decisions of customers. You can, work very hard and do everything you possibly can with that knowledge to try and close a deal. But it doesn't really have the same influence on that. And this is not my opinion. This is actually rooted in tenets of biology. It is shown that decisions are not made by features, functions, facts. The human brain can take in a lot of that, but it doesn't drive buying behavior. It's attitude. It's how people think. It's their beliefs. And I truly believe that you have to be hyper passionate about what you do. You have to have a strategic mindset. You have to bring all that Oracle has to bear in order for Oracle to be truly successful. And if Oracle's successful, obviously you will be successful. But one of the things you have to do, and I challenge you to do this, is check your comp plan at the door when you're thinking about a customer. The customer wants a trusted advisor. The customer wants a value-added partner. They want someone that can help solve problems. And I believe that you should sell the problems that you solve, not the products that you're commissioned to sell. Sell the problems. It's the mindset. And I wanted to lay this as the foundation because I think it's very key. And I deal with folks here in the Americas, in EMEA, in JPAC, and I see a lot of common patterns. Again, people are driven by their comp plans. Totally get it. But the joke, the funny joke is when you look left and right within the Oracle organization, you bring that story together, you sell more products. You get more money in your pocket. So let's give an example if we can. Okay. So I want to share with you an example, and I'll drop into character. And when I drop out of character, I'll let you know as well. I'm going to give you a couple examples, if I may. And I'm going to try and cut to the chase and tell that why Oracle, why you would want to do business with us story. So this is the example from an Oracle perspective, if we can. All right. At Oracle, we believe that your business is ever changing. We believe that you need a partner that you can build upon. We believe that you need to have someone at the table that can work with you through all aspects of your business. You know, I have an iPhone here. When I plug it in less than a half second, it lights up, it's powered up. Hundreds of miles away, you generated that power. Your utility is fully integrated. It has to be in order to do that simple transaction. To me, the layman, it is a simple transaction. I plugged it in and it worked. From an Oracle point of view, we take a similar view when it comes to technology. We take a look at it holistically. We try to understand and help you solve problems with your assets, with your infrastructure. We know that keeping the grid alive, without question, is the single most important thing that you will ever have to do as a company. It's your core mission statement. Everything else is secondary, and it's important, but nothing is more important than keeping the lights on, or delivering clean water, or taking the sewage away when someone flushes the toilet. Our software is specifically designed to focus in on those areas. It's not an application that was designed for Toyota Motor Corporation, and then we brought it over to you to try and run your utility. We have 38% of the Eastern Seaboard covered with our network management solution. So when a hurricane or a storm comes through, it is our customers using our software to help keep the lights on and deliver that life-giving service. We also manage everything with regards to the meters, with regards to the customer interaction that may happen, whether it's on the phone, the web, whether it's a face-to-face interaction, someone wanting to pay a bill or talk about their property, they want to do some sort of digging, apply for a permit, they want to set up a payment arrangement. We manage all of those things in one place. All that revenue that you collect has to go somewhere. We don't pass it to a third party. That stays within the Oracle family. So all of the general ledger transactions that you need and your subsidiary ledger transactions are all in one place. When you need to procure, when you need to do various things, it's within our software. And it's people that's doing the work. Our human capital management solutions are leaders within the Gartner Magic Quadrant. You know, one of the things that you're facing as a utility is wildfires. And you need to take your capital spend and figure out what you want to do to harden your assets. We have tools in place that have been used by hundreds of utilities to help them do wildfire mitigation. And also, I don't want to be foolish and think that Oracle will do everything, can do everything. You'll have other third-party solutions that are out there as well. So let me just give you some examples, and let me dive in one level if I can. From a customer experience standpoint, Oracle is very good in terms of engaging the customer to make sure that they have a pleasant experience. We are vertically deep, and we've been doing this for a very long time. And it's our customers that drive our products and our roadmaps. So we make sure that we have a seamless end-to-end process so they have a gratifying experience, that they will want to continue to do business with you and maybe buy additional products and services. They can go online, they can pay their bill, they can stop service. They can have alerts come directly to their mobile device to know that they're going to be consuming a little too much and they're on a fixed income. We can do all of those things with Oracle. We can make it very easy for them to be able to go online, to be able to take a look at their bill and be able to interact without having to call in. Everything right at their fingertips. Business where they need to have it. This is the Oracle way. And having everything in one place and being able to go online and being able to, simply, pay your bill via PayPal, Apple Pay, Venmo, credit card, whatever you choose to do, we can help you and we can be that partner at Oracle. So from a customer experience standpoint, we have a lot of tools. In each one of these areas, we have a lot of things. For example, we know that you have a very large Salesforce deployment today. You've spent close to $100 million. Our solutions integrate directly into your Salesforce platform. Because Salesforce doesn't know much about your customers until they engage, until they come in and give you information. What we have is information that is relevant. So when you're engaging with a customer, right there in your Salesforce user interface, hitting you in the face are all the things you need from a customer billing perspective to make sure that it is seamless. These are things that we do here at Oracle, and we don't stop there. All of these applications are supported by world-class technology. From the infrastructure to the platform, all of the analytics that need to happen, whether they're embedded analytics within the application or they are true enterprise applications like data lakes or data warehouses or data lagoons, wrapped with security. Let me give you another example of how seamless our technology works with our cloud-based applications. I'm going to come here under application development. And I have taken your website, Baltimore Gas and Electric, and done a port. And in 3 lines of code, I'm going to add an embeddable widget into your website. So here I'm pulling up the container. I'm giving the container a name. Compare your bills. I'm now making the scripting calls into the Oracle system, and I'm looking at the appropriate JS containers. And you see I'm making the call into my Oracle Power or O-Power solutions, as we like to call it. And I'm calling exactly the bill compare and what we want to do. Click enter, and I've now brought it forth. Simple, easy, and impactful. That's what we do at Oracle. We have over 2,600 utilities that turn to us to do these things every day. We also give our clients a deployment choice. There are vendors out there who will come in and tell you everything has to be in the cloud or everything is on-prem because they haven't progressed their technology. At Oracle, we don't do that. We know that you're at a certain place in your journey, and we will meet you there, and we give you deployment choice. For many of our applications, you have the choice of whether you want to have it on-prem or you want to have it in the public cloud. True SaaS, not faux SaaS, where it's the last upgrade you will ever need to do. Oracle is that one hand to shake. Oracle gives you that opportunity to partner with someone that understands your business holistically so that you can innovate. You can keep the lights on. You can keep your customers happy. Let me give you an example of an actual customer. So this is Evergy. This was an amalgamation of 3 companies into one. And Charles King, Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, Chief Information Officer, he had some goals. He had to cut his IT spend immediately by 12%. He wanted a pathway to the cloud. He had a workforce that was retiring, a high rate, and a lot of brain drain walking out of the door. And it was his opportunity to try and transform. They had to eliminate duplication. They had hundreds of applications that were duplicated, a lot of custom tools, and they wanted to consolidate 3 different ERPs, 3 different HCM solutions, 3 different customer billing systems. And meanwhile, they wanted to improve their JD Power score. Well, they partnered with Oracle, and we are on path to deliver $79 million US in business benefits and savings to this customer by having a single hand to shake. Let me give you another customer, Exelon. Chicago-based company, vertically integrated. They had interesting things. In terms of their goals, they wanted to have a shared IT landscape, and they wanted to participate in the development process. They wanted to be able to innovate. They had multiple companies that they were trying to standardize, and they wanted to use technology for that catalyst. We were able to drive $217 million in savings to this customer by moving to an Oracle first strategy, by partnering with Oracle. And don't just, believe me. Let's hear from Mark Browning himself.
Communities that we serve. Innovation is a big part of what has people excited about coming to work every day, trying to solve new problems in new ways, using technology to do that. Partnering with Oracle to innovate is key to our success. We're trying to move fast, we're trying to be agile, and working with Oracle and the partnership that we have is foundational to that.
So let me push pause there and come back to our presentation here. I wanted to give you a little bit of glimpse of what customers are actually doing, and there's hundreds of them are out there, like Mark, like Exelon, that are doing great things. And here's the interesting thing. They chose to do it with Oracle, not anyone else. Why is that? And I think it's real key to truly understand. So when you take a look at some of the other leading platforms out there, in this case, SAP, when you take a look at how they look at your business, they do certain things, and they do it well, but they don't do everything. They don't do enough. Can they be that single hand to shake for your organization? At Oracle, we deliver everything from the infrastructure, the hardware, the middleware, the database, the field mobile aspects, all of the energy efficiency things that you will need. And we don't need third parties. We don't need system integrators. Now, why is this important to you? It's important because less opportunities for mistakes, less handoffs, all these equal less risk. This equals a better partnership. And that is where Oracle can take you. So let me step out of character. What I wanted to do is just give an example that I threw together for you guys. And the story that I shared, what I did, I had a graphic that you saw, all right? And that graphic basically was like the map of all things that Oracle does. So there are different types of presentations you can do at Oracle. Technically, there's 3. I call it Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and let's give some examples. If you were here yesterday, Mike Ballard and Neil did a Tier 3 presentation. So they were giving you facts, details, great things about our products at what I would classify as at the lower level in terms of the granularity. Caitlin, she came on, El Capitan. You should ask her why her nickname is El Capitan. Fascinating story. She did what I would classify as a level 2 presentation. So she explained it from a UGBU perspective. She took it up another level. She sprinkled a little bit of Oracle at the high level. She had one slide, which I thought was great, but it was more what I'll classify as a tier 2. A tier 1 is when you bring all of Oracle to bear, everything that Oracle has to offer to set the client up. So that chart that I showed, we used it for a customer last year that we closed, which ended up being the largest contract in the history of Oracle. And we sold what we believe almost every product that was out there. And every time the presenters were presenting in their individual tracks, they started with that map. They talked about it at a high level, sold at high level, and they gave the customer perspective where they fit in the overall picture. They drove down into a particular area. Mobile was a very hot topic for this client. They did all the mobile stuff. They did all the routing and route optimizations. They zoomed back out and reminded the customer, this is where you sit in everything that Oracle has to offer. So the client started to see the vision that we had. They started to understand it and believe in it and understand the value. What I want to do for you here is I want to give you something you may have never seen before while you're working at Oracle. I put together a presentation of a competitor. I've taken the competitor's product and I've put it into a presentation that I want to share with you as to how our competitors right now are scheming and plotting and planning and strategizing how they're going to win your customer over. I want to give it to you from their perspective so you can kind of see how they tell the story as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, for the lawyers that are on the call or anyone, everything that I'm showing here is of public record, taken from websites, videos, et cetera, et cetera. So there's nothing here that's proprietary. It's all public knowledge, okay? So I'm going to step into character again, but now I'm your competitor. I'm competing against you. I'm trying to take money out of your pocket, okay? But remember, I want to be able to tell that value story, but I'm just going to do it a little different now. At Infor, we think about business differently. We know that you have very structured processes. We know you have a lot of things going on, but we also know reality sets in and things happen. And you have to be able to have a solution that is flexible, that can morph with the process or with your business. And so you can have, for example, a procure to pay process. You can have a customer moving in. You can have various things, but there can be deviations. What happens when you add another level of complexity? What happens when you have chat conversations using various tools, Slack, Instant Messenger, email, phone? How does all that get incorporated? How does that change the overall dynamic? Well, one of the things that we believe at Infor is that you have to look at that holistically. And we mingle. We want to share with you how Infor works our mingle business tools to help you solve problems. And so what we want to do is take a look at our solution offering. We do a lot of things, as you know. We do everything from HR, we do all of the analytics, we do all the CRM and CIS, stuff that's happening out there. We have all the asset management, procurement, we do all those things. But let me give you a simple example to give you an opportunity to see what the future potentially could look like. And I'm going to focus in on just a few key areas. I'm going to go through an actual workflow that happens in your business probably almost every day and show you how the software is seamless to help solving problems for you. What I'm going to do, I'm actually going to start with a mobile device. And so I received an alert, and that alert says, hey, you need to bring your Dodge Ram truck in because you're having transmission problems. So it's monitored that. It's told me I need to bring that in. So I got an alert. It shows the approximate work that needs to be done in terms of dollar amount on there. So I have that on my screen, on my mobile device. I'm the person that is, owning that vehicle. So the way it works within our world, you have your daily display. I have my alerts on the left, the things I need to know. I have my task in the middle, things I need to do. And then I have my social business side, how I interact with people in my business, whether it's the maintenance group, the procurement group, management, and at the bottom, I have all of my embedded analytics coming to me. The concept at Infor is different than others. We bring the work to you versus you going to find your work. How is that for a daily experience? So I come in here and I see that there's a problem. I want to drill to that asset. I'm not going to have to do a login and type in the actual vehicle or the work order number. It's going to take me directly where I need to go. So it pulls up that vehicle and the work order where we have transmission problems. And I'm going to go to my checklist to see what I need to do. And I have various things that I need to do. And I need to go in and do various tests. And I see that it failed the transmission test. Well, that's going to kick off a process here. So it's put a task in Danielle's lap. She's the purchasing agent. You can see in the upper left-hand corner with her image, with her avatar. So now I'm a different person. So I'm playing a couple different roles here. So in her task, it shows that she needs to have some sort of requisition. So seamlessly, she can click and open up her requisition. She can go in and she can start to interact with her colleagues. And so she can come in and say, okay, at inventory, kind of like, you want to tag someone. So anyone that has the inventory tag will see this in their feed. I can add screenshots. I can add attachments. It's automatically embedding all the information. I don't have to say what work order it is. I don't have to say what truck it is. I don't have to say all those things. And then I post it. Now I'm Henrik, and Henrik gets it in his feed. So let's take a look at what we have here. The Infor world, again, we bring the work to you. So in the middle is your feed, almost like the Facebook feed. This is social business, as we call it. So you have people that you interact with. You have assets you can see that you're following. So when those assets are not healthy, it will communicate to you versus you having to go find that. And you see that on the left-hand side, the things you are following, the people that you're following, your boss, your leadership, and then your connections of the people that you interact with. So Hendrik has basically said, hey, we don't have that. It's been assigned to another repair. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do a strategic sourcing event. And I'm asking my vendors out there, can you do something for me and give me some quotes? We need it as soon as possible. And it will go to those vendors out there. Jones. So Jones is a big auto manufacturer that has a lot of parts on hand. This is what they will see. So your vendors are having a pleasant experience where it's simple for them to interact. You get all the bids in, you can select a quote, you can say that you want to award that through our strategic sourcing solution. You can go ahead and select that you do want to award that. And then our risk and compliance comes in. A pop-up comes up because on your mobile device, because someone awarded and it wasn't the lowest cost. So someone in audit, someone in sourcing has now seen this on their device. So they can go in and they can say, hey, why wasn't this awarded to the lowest cost vendor? This will take it and put it on their page, on their feed. She can say, hey, Donna, this was an urgent request. We needed it immediately, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is Infor. We try to make things seamless and easy, and we take a look at your business holistically. So let me step out of character. Again, I wanted to give you two examples. I gave you an example from Oracle, how you can tell the value story. I gave you an example from a competitor, how they could tell the value story from their perspective. And trust me, they are doing that. We have to consistently up our game in order to be successful. And why does it work? Why does telling the Oracle value story or the why Oracle story, why does it work? I want to use an example. There were some great presentations yesterday, and I enjoyed all of them. And I'm looking forward to the presentations that are coming today. Neil, however, was presenting something that really stuck out to me. He used a Henry Ford Model T, and he was talking about the user interface. He went from the vehicle of the Model T, then he talked about Tesla. So people can relate to that because you probably haven't seen a Model T, but you've probably seen a Tesla. And he was talking about the user interface. But let me talk about why it works that's sitting there. So Neil talked about the user interface. He talked about the 18-inch display. And there's all these things you can do on there. You now can watch movies, you can play video games, you can listen to music, you can do everything you need to do via that display. Now, imagine if Neil was a salesperson for Tesla, and Tesla had car dealerships, and he was compensated on selling displays. The more advanced displays that they sell versus a standard display, the more money he's going to make. And he did a fabulous job of telling you about how all the things in that display will change your life. What could have you done differently? So from my perspective, that sales rep, Neil, who's selling you the display, in my mind, I'm thinking there's so much more. And I think you need to look at it holistically. So here I have the Tesla Cybertruck, which has that same great 18-inch display and all the features and functions that Neil talked about. But what about the other stuff? What about a vehicle that can go 610 miles on a single charge? A vehicle that can be charged to 80% in less than 30 minutes. A vehicle that is bulletproof, glass that is shatterproof that they still need to finalize. Has a fully integrated camping system and cooking system. It has a rear bed that can sit like a dog with a ramp that touches the ground. You can drive your motorcycle into the back to transport what you want. Infrastructure of over 26,000 stations in North America, 13,000 stations across Europe. Basically, you can go anywhere in Europe, anywhere in the lower 48 with the Tesla infrastructure and a 1,000,000-mile warranty. The cost is 25% less than the competition. The vehicle goes 40% longer. That is the why Oracle story, if you will, bringing all of Oracle to bear. Bringing, in this case, all of Tesla to bear. Now, if I'm that rep who's only compensated on selling displays, it behooves me to get passionate about this actual vehicle in its entirety and sell the whole vehicle. Because the more vehicles I sell, the more displays I sell. And that's what happens at Oracle. We can't get wrapped up in the product. So I see this sometimes where reps are compensated, let's say, on asset work management, but they can't talk about the customer billing side of the house. And in my mind, I think it's one of the easiest things to talk about because unless you live at home with your parents, you probably get a bill. I think you could weave together a story. And once you get that bill, what happens? Where does it go? It goes into the financials. Or when someone comes out in front of my house and they're fiddling with my meter, they're digging in the right of way to inspect a gas line. They have a mobile device. They're tracking cost. There's a labor component. There's a qualifications as to who can work and dig in that area. That's HCM. That's Oracle Field Service Cloud. That's asset work management. That's financials. That's requisitions and purchase orders. So we can deliver that life-giving service and keep the grid alive, network management, and send gas and electric to you and collect it. That's CIS. You got to be able to tell the whole Oracle story. And you don't have to be an expert, but you have to be passionate about it. Here's something that I believe, and this was something that I live with. This is something I thought about many years ago. And I believe that before you can inform an audience, you have to engage them. And before you engage them, you have to inspire them. You have to have a connection with them. You have to get them to understand your beliefs and why you're passionate about what you do and why they should care. That is where the real value starts, is with your beliefs, the company's beliefs, what the company can do for you as a business. And then you go to a tier 2, Caitlin. Then you go to a tier 3, Neil, Mike. Right? All those things have a play, but you need to be able to weave the story together. So, for me, when I look at a presentation, to me, it's very systematic in terms of how it's structured, how it's put together. I believe that you have to do certain things. You have to put in the sweat equity. You have to think about what you want to do in order to be successful. to deliver that message. Now, this is a potential another presentation about presentation skills, but this is how I go through and map out a presentation. This is how I try to drive and tell the Oracle story. Why Oracle is the best partner for you. Has anyone ever seen this? If you can open up your chat, and if you could type in who you believe came up with this concept. Please don't go on the web and do that. But if you've heard of who this person is, type their name in the chat if you can, if you think. So I see some responses there. They believe it was a gentleman by the name of Simon Sinek who did a famous TED Talk. They believe that he invented the golden circle. Anyone else think they have an idea of who invented this concept of the golden circle? No one wants to take that risk. Well, it was Simon. He has this concept of the golden circle that I believe emphatically. And before I even had the opportunity to meet Simon, I believed a lot of these things already. I was doing them for years and years and years. What he did is codified it. He put it into a system. So this is one of my homework assignments for you. Do yourself a favor. Type in Simon Sinek, the golden circle. You can type in that. TED. He did a TED Talk. It's 18 minutes. There's a shortened version that's about 5 minutes and 42 seconds. You can watch that one as well. And I will tell you, the way that you present information is paramount. How you present it is paramount. And he codified it. And he talked about basically that everyone knows what they do. Every company knows what they do. And most people know how they do it. But very few organizations know why they do it. You have to figure out why you do what you do. Why do you wake up in the morning to come here? Is it just to earn a paycheck? You're just getting through life? Or do you truly believe in what you're doing? And this is what he talks about, understanding your company and your why and telling the story from the inside out, because that's how decisions are made. I highly recommend that you take a look at that. It may change the way that you try to tell the Oracle value story. And it could be told in many different ways. It could be told in many different ways. So that's a little bit about why it works. It's because we take a more holistic view. We work from the inside out, and the results have shown it. When we do value-based selling versus feature function, when we bring the entire breadth of Oracle to bear, no one can match us. Not one vendor. And you can say that with extreme confidence. There's not one vendor on the planet that can match what Oracle can do. You have to figure out a story and how to tell a portion of that story. Again, you don't need to know all the products, but you got to get passionate about it. You have to be willing to put in the effort to do that. Now, what happens when you come out to a situation where, and someone put a comment in there, Chad, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. I truly believe that. When you get to that trusted advisor status, when we won that contract, which we're not supposed to talk about, my best presentations were never with a PowerPoint and there was no product on the screen. It was just a conversation talking about our vision, our strategy, where we wanted to take them and how we wanted to help them solve problems. And they bought into it. So one of the things that, someone asked, Manpreet and Michael asked that I talk about was specialized topics. So specialized topics are what I classify as those things where there's not a lot of information out there about it. For example, on the ERP side, they have some specialized topics like what they call fleet management, connected worker. These are products that if you go, you're not going to see a lot of information on there. There's maybe a couple paragraphs, not even a screenshot, no references in there. And maybe you have a customer that wants to talk about that. Or you have a customer that wants to talk about analytics. And there's not a lot of information maybe out there about our analytics within the UGBU. So you have these specialized topics, and I think there's a couple ways to attack those topics. One of the things that I was inspired many years ago, and you may remember this, the UPS guy. So for those of you that have seen these commercials, they were fascinating. They were all 30-second spots. I want to say they did maybe 10 total. 5 of them were released in the US. The other ones were outside of the US. And basically what you see here on the screen is that he's doing a drawing. And when he first got to the screen, when you first came into the commercial, there was a package on the left, there was a Statue of Liberty, and there was a US Capitol on the right. And what he did, he drew a line from the package to New York. He basically said, you have a customer that you were sending a package to, and they told you that they had to go to DC. So they intercepted the package and brought it back. But he said, what if we could actually take it from where it's going back to and just route it directly to where the customer is going to be? So he drew the UPS symbol, and he said, if you work with UPS, and then he underlined delivery, he underlined intercept. So he took this concept that inspired me. He took a topic, delivery intercept with FedEx, with UPS. They both have this feature now. And FedEx is an Oracle customer. It's very complex how this works. What he did was simplify it and made it easy. So I was inspired many years ago by this. And then I got a call last year from Roger Smith. You may have heard of Roger Smith. He works here at Oracle. He's the guy who leads our business for us globally, if you don't know him personally. He gave me a call and said, hey, Carlos, you need to put together a video. Everyone in sales management, everyone needs to put together a video, some sort of sales pitch. And I was like, okay, I wasn't prepared. And I had, I believe, 2 hours until it was done. And then I had a customer that I was working with that wanted to understand a complex topic. So I said, let me kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And I put something together that I think can be replicated by anyone with some simple preparation. Let me share it with you if you haven't seen it already. Let me set this up here. Hopefully you can see my screen okay. And let me push play so you can listen. What is Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse? I think that's a good question. But I think we should start off with, what is a data warehouse or a data warehouse strategy? So let's say you have people. That person could be you. And people need access to data to do their job. And you have different systems that produce large amount of data. It could be pieces of equipment, it could be meters, and over time, those systems will continue to produce more and more data. And you need to connect the systems and the data that they produce to the people and when they need it. Not a problem. I can take this here and I can connect it there. No problem. So what happens when you connect and you need to provide for additional systems that come with additional people that need information? Well, that's not a problem. I can go ahead and take that person here and I can stitch them right there. This person right here, I can take my other solution to get the data together. And what happens when you decide to make an acquisition? And then you have more people from corporate that now need to get in. And they have different ways of putting the systems, but no problem. I can come in here and stitch those together, put corporate on top, connect all those systems. That is your infrastructure, but is it a data infrastructure? You're trying to connect the systems that produce a large amount of data and get them to the people that need it. This is not scalable. This is not sustainable. We don't believe that is the future. Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse. It takes the data that we need from the systems we need it from, whether they're Oracle systems or non-Oracle systems. It gets them to the people that need it, whether they're supervisors, whether they're colleagues, whether they're constituents. These systems are always producing data. Are you listening? Oracle Autonomous can do it without human intervention. It can be fast, scalable, and more cost productive to get the data that you need to the people when they need it. That is a real data infrastructure. That is Oracle's Autonomous Data Warehouse. I wanted to share that with you because what I did there, and there was a topic that I knew very little about, virtually nothing. I read a document. It took maybe 2 minutes to read it. I took an idea to try and simplify it to be able to tell a story, to tell the Oracle story. This is something that you can do. And I used a series of, sticky notes and things like that, drawing, tape, glue. You can replicate that. Simple and easy. And I had some things obviously off camera that were already drawn because I laid out my vision, my storyboard. But when it comes to specialized topics, what you want to make sure you do is to let them understand where they sit in the overall picture. Don't lose sight of the overall vision. So this was something, again, the UPS guy that inspired me to do something. So with that being said, I'm going to open it up to any questions that you may have. Feel free to come off of mute. You can drop it in chat if you want to, if you're the shy type, but feel free to come off of mute and ask any question that you would like.